very familiar with this coat, whether we've read that in stories in school growing up or whenever we've confronted the story of Joseph. This coat and the beauty of it has always captivated people when we've read the story. But it's what this coat represents that's like the hinge to this whole story. This coat, when parents today buy their kids something that makes it obvious that they're the favorite, what's the effect? It often drives kids crazy with resentment and bitterness towards the parents. And then on top of that, as another layer in this story, Joseph had prophetic dreams. We love this part of the story as well too. These were unique dreams in which God was speaking, communicating something very clearly to Joseph. This wasn't random dreams that Joseph was having. It wasn't odd dreams that Joseph was having because he had pizza the day before. There's something where God's speaking very clearly through these dreams. And Joseph had this dream one night that one day his brothers would bow down to him. And his mistake, as the story tells us, was that Joseph told his brothers this dream. He told his brothers that they would bow down to him after already very clearly being Dad's favorite. And that was it for his brothers. He could not take it anymore. Does this ever happen today, by the way? We ever see this happening in families? Do parents ever cause their kids to resent them? Do parents ever do things that cause their kids to get pushed over the edge? Sometimes with the things that they do. Of course they do. And even though the story of Joseph is a very old one, the Bible is always very timely. It's always very relevant for us today when we read it. This past week I was reading a parenting book one night, and there was this short line that struck me, where it was talking about how you can parent your kids properly. And one of the parenting principles in the book was a very simple one, but one that we also see as a parallel in Joseph's life. And that parenting principle was that resentment breeds vengeance. Now think about that for a second. Resentment breeds vengeance. It's not a nice thing to think about. But the principle is that if parents aren't careful, they can harvest chaos in the lives of their children. If parents blindly, or even worse, openly display favoritism, they can foster feelings and deep-seated attitudes of resentment. And vengeance often follows behind. Well, that's what happens in Joseph's story early on. What happens is that the resentment of the brothers comes fully into fruition because of that coat. Because that coat was a daily reminder that Dad loved Joseph more than them. And so they conspired to get rid of Joseph. The resentment was so deep that they actually planned to kill Joseph. And thankfully, a brother intervenes, trying to save him, and convinces them to sell him into straight slavery instead. So Joseph is 17 years old. He's just a kid. He's sold into slavery. He's sold to Ishmaelites. And then he's sold again to an Egyptian official named Potiphar. Joseph is miles away from home. And he's in slavery. And he's in a jail cell. And he's just rotting away. For most of us, when we read this story and we're following along, sometimes our mind wanders a little bit. And we think, what is God doing in the life of this kid? What is God doing in Joseph's life? But the story's not done yet. There's a whisper of hope in the line, but the Lord was with Joseph. And because the Lord is with Joseph, God opens doors for Joseph, even while he's still in prison. He's given responsibility. He's given trust. His life starts to go up, 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 because he works well, because he works honorably, because he works ethically. And then a trial comes, just as his arrow is pointing up. Joseph was not ready for Potiphar's wife to start flirting with him. And he kept saying no, he kept saying no, he kept saying no. And then because he did the right thing, he wound up going down, down, down into prison all over again. When Joseph's arrow was going up, the story tells us that the Lord was with Joseph. When the arrow was going down, the story tells us that the Lord was with Joseph. And so when we read that, we're meant to see, we're meant to understand that when our life is going up, the Lord is with us. And then when the arrow is going down, the Lord is with us. He's still there. He's still close.